All right, now let's bring in Alex Gray, former National Security Council Chief of Staff. Alex, do appreciate it. Get ready to have these further talks. You have experience with this. The Supreme Leader is really the only way to get this done. And will it ultimately take a regime change to get things done? Or can we, I mean, it seems like the Iranians just want to continue to negotiate in perpetuity. That's their strategy. But until there's regime change, can you actually get to the point where they can join the world and the economy and be a decent, state that actually allows the thrives in the American or in the global economy?
Well, good to see you, Jason. Thanks for having me. Look, I think it's obvious that as long as the Ayatollah theocracy is in control in Iran, the people are going to be oppressed. They're going to do everything they can to destabilize the region, to stabilize their neighbors, and they're not going to do anything that the United States wants them to do. I mean, the Ayatollahs have been very clear. The missile regime is not on the table. The nuclear program is sort of on the table, but not really. And they're not going to cut down on the proxy militias, the Hezbollahs and the Houthis that they've been using to destabilize the Middle East. They basically have taken all that off the table. So there's very little for us to discuss with the Ayatollahs, which I think, Jason, is why the president has decided to have this incredible U.S. naval presence in the region to make clear that he has options if they don't negotiate. The question is, regime change. I personally, and I agree with the president's position over the last 10 years, that regime change in the Middle East is something that should be avoided at all costs. And I think the president's incredibly judicious about how he uses American military force. That said, if the Iranian people want to undertake on their own an effort to take down the regime, I think we should certainly support that. We can't be like Obama in 2009, but we have to be very careful about getting into something that we can't control. And I think the president knows that better than anyone.
It's a very patient, rational approach. I think the world has looked only to the United States. The global pressure has not been there, but with the reduction in the price of oil, I mean, how does their economy even make it? And I think, isn't that why we have literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Iranians taking to the streets and saying, enough is enough. We have to change. We can't live under this.
Look, the Iranian people are the biggest victims, obviously, of the Ayatollahs. For 50 years almost, they have watched their standard of living go down. Their human rights have evaporated to nothing. They've watched their limited resources squandered on a nuclear program, a missile program, on proxy wars in Iraq and Yemen and the Middle East and Israel. I mean, the amount of wasted human capital and resources that the Iranian regime has spent over the last 50 years is just extraordinary. And so I think the Iranian people looks like they may have finally just had enough. And there finally may be a confluence of events, right, a weakening of the Ayatollahs because of President Trump's actions with Operation Midnight Hammer. There may finally be a moment here where the regime just collapses of its own incompetence.
I want you to listen to this clip. This is Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, is speaking at the Munich Security Conference. I wish everybody could watch this. Take 15 minutes and watch this at some point. But he represented the United States and President Trump so well. Listen to this clip, and I want to get your reaction.
Under President Trump, the United States of America will once again take on the task of renewal and restoration. And while we are prepared, if necessary, to do this alone, it is our preference and it is our hope to do this together with you, our friends here in Europe. We in America have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline. We do not seek to separate, but to revitalize an old friendship.
He was brilliant in that speech. It was so well crafted and exceptionally well delivered. How do you think the Europeans took that?
Well, Jason, I think the Europeans, unfortunately, when you listen to the coverage and you talk to Europeans, they're still in denial that, if only President Trump leaves office, we're just going to revert back to the world of 20 years ago, where Europe's not expected to deal with its own defense. We take care of their needs, and they're able to pass the buck to the United States. They have not woken up, I think, despite all of this, despite J.D. Vance's speech in Munich last year, despite the president's national security strategy, despite Secretary Rubio's comments. France, Germany, the EU still live in this fantasy world that's not coming back. And I think one of the things that this administration, I think, has been exceptionally good at, Jason, is delivering these messages consistently. It doesn't matter if it's Vance or Rubio or the president himself. They are consistently of one mind and one message, that the days of the United States paying for Europe and Europe being able to have a holiday from history are over. And I think it's a message that's long overdue.
Yeah, I think you're right, Alex. I think this will it will not permeate some of those that have invested 40 years of some of these leaders telling us and telling the world in their own countries that, what they're saying, and now they're finding out that it's not true. But it'll be the golden era of the United States thriving so far above and beyond what they're able to accomplish, that some of those younger generations, I think, will actually start to make the transition. And then they'll start to see that, boy, United States of America, that's who we want to be. And secretly, I think they know that's who they want to be, because we are the world superpower. We're the economic and military superpower. So that's what leadership looks like under Donald Trump. And that's why I think we're thriving. Alex Gray, thank you so much for joining us tonight on Kudlow. Do appreciate it.